letterers, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be sharing a really nice and short midweek practice session with you all that you can pick up your pens and feel inspired to do some bouncy calligraphy. So we'll be practicing 6 words in baseline and bouncy calligraphy style. And the reason we're starting with baseline is to just help you understand how baseline calligraphy becomes bouncy calligraphy. So we'll focus on the baseline and just notice which letters change and how they stretch and bounce, when we do 2 different styles. So it's going to be great. Just set aside 10 minutes for yourself, pick your favorite color brush pen, and let's dive in. So for this session, we'll definitely need some guidelines. So I'm just using a blank piece of paper and I'm just going to draw some lines manually, just using a ruler. I'm just going to do some straight lines. Having a baseline will be so helpful when we're practicing bouncy calligraphy because it'll help us see which letters we're bouncing below the baseline and how far do they stretch. So I highly recommend drawing some lines, or maybe you're using like a ruled pad already. That's wonderful. Okay, so on the left, we're going to practice some baseline calligraphy. And on the right, we are going to turn that baseline look into a beautiful bouncy style. And I'll be using this beautiful pastel pen by Tombow. It's called Fudenosuke pen. It's really lovely. It's from their pastel collection and it shows up beautifully on dark background as well. All right, so let's do our first word. We're going to letter the word golden, and I'm starting with the letter G. So I'm starting with an oval shape. I'm forming the letter out of shapes. So remember, calligraphy is all about putting shapes together into letters. So think of it as drawing shapes rather than joining everything up in one go. So notice how every letter connection, so as we finish the letter, it's really round. So we can definitely see that U shape showing through, and everything is sitting beautifully on the baseline. Now, as we try and do this in bouncy calligraphy, the first letter we're going to bounce is the letter L. So notice how it stretches below the baseline and the connection stroke becomes a little bit more sharp, say with the letter D. Notice how those U-shaped connections have turned into like V-shaped connections. Same with the letter N. So as we finish the word, we are going to form a beautiful kind of like a V shape at the end and stretch the upstroke up, so it looks beautifully complete. There we go. So that's our first word. Give it a go. Practice. You can always pause the video if you need more time. I do recommend doing it more than once. We're going to do another word. So let's do the word harvest. So again, I'm forming the letter H out of shape. So it's got 2 parts to it. The letter A consists of an oval and a U shape. And I'm just joining everything, joining all the shapes together one by one, stopping frequently. And to ensure that my spacing is nice and neat, I'm really focusing on those last strokes of each letter. Okay, so here comes our bouncy version of this. So notice how I'm bouncing the letter H. So the second part of the letter H stretches below the baseline. The last downstroke of the letter A also stretches below the baseline. And it's same for the letter R. We can keep the letter V on the baseline so it looks a bit more kind of back to normal in the middle of the word, and then we may be exaggerating the letter S and the letter T. So see how we're kind of jumping from bigger letters to smaller letters. We're stretching some of them, and that's the rhythm of it. And that's what makes bouncy calligraphy look so interesting and full of character. Lovely. When you're ready, we are going to do the word swim. Quite short, so nice and short. So the letter M, I think, here is the biggest challenge. And it's actually one of the bounciest letters you can do. The letter M is super bounceable. So some letters are definitely more bounceable than others in calligraphy, but the letter M is one of those letters that can definitely stretch below the baseline and back up. So you can stretch its last downstroke if you like. You can definitely do like a dramatic stretch there. So it goes all the way down and then all the way back up. Beautiful. Take your time here. Again, remember, you can always pause. And when you're ready, let's do the word lake. Again, nice and short, just 4 letters, but it does require a lot of focus to, get the spacing right, to make sure everything looks balanced. Let's try and align the letter L and K to the same height when we do the baseline version. And as we do the bouncy style version, let's try and bounce the letter L. Let's stretch the downstroke of the letter A below the line. The letter K can also kind of go a bit lower down. And maybe we can keep the letter E on the baseline, but let's finish the letter with a beautiful long stroke to the side so it looks complete. Okay, you're doing great. Let's do a couple more words. Let's do the word meadow, and we'll see that letter M that we've talked about. So notice how I'm really kind of rounding up that last downstroke and upstroke of the letter before I start doing the letter E. So we pause in between the shapes. Notice how I'm always having a little pause. And it feels really rhythmical because I'm not stopping for a long time. And I'm also not connecting everything in one go. So it just feels rhythmical because those pauses are there. And it's like we're constructing each letter out of its shapes. Now, as we do this in Bouncy calligraphy, notice what happens to the last downstroke of the letter M. It stretches all the way down, and I'm stretching it back up to catch the letter E. And the letter A and D can also be quite bouncy, I think. It will look really beautiful. And then letters O and W can maybe be a bit smaller and just sit beautifully balanced on the baseline. Well done. Just notice the difference. And all we've done is just turn those U shapes into V shapes and bounced some of the downstrokes below the baseline. And our last word is going to be the word trees. Again, quite short, but we've got the double E in there. So letters E are not necessarily very bouncy, although they can be, but I normally kind of keep them fairly on the baseline. But we can play with the letter R and the letter S. You can make the letter S a bit bigger and just stretch it below the line slightly. And we can just complete the word with a long, long cross line over the letter T. Here we go. Well done, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this session. If you feel like you would like more guidance with Bouncy calligraphy in particular, and you feel like practicing a bit more with me, I'm now offering my 3-day challenge, 3-day Bouncy calligraphy challenge replays for free. So you can watch this training with me, pick up lots and lots of tips and squeeze in some extra practicing. I'll add a link for it in the description, so have a look. I would love to see you there. And I'm wishing you the best of luck with your Bouncy calligraphy journey. Happy practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.